Have you ever wanted to play Rust but not Rust? Well, I have the game for you. Deadside is an open world survival game where, like in Rust, you're able to build your base, loot the open world sandbox to upgrade yourself, and are able to raid other people. The difference between this game and Rust is that with Rust, you have to for sure start playing in the beginning of wipe day in order for you to have fun to be the OP one in the server, or at least have a good chance in surviving. Immediately as you spawn in, you are able to find a weapon and go immediately into the game's missions or POIs and can honestly upgrade yourself to the point where you are a killing machine. You are already that OP person right at the very start, and that's even all without even having to build a base. Now, I do want to go ahead and add here real quickly before I continue further on to this video is that I will be comparing this game to Rust due to basically both of the game being a part of the same genre and honestly just are really competing for the same player base. They both have the exact same kind of gameplay and loop that you'd expect, so don't be upset with me when I compare the two. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I do like the concept Deadside provides. If you do miss wipe day, you still have a fighting chance to get a decent weapon right at the very start and be able to take out the competition to make yourself have an even better start than anyone. It invites people to honestly join Deadside servers whenever they have a chance, but there are some quirks when it comes to this game that do need some addressing here. The number one thing that I for sure want to say that they definitely need to go ahead and get this fixed is the AI. The bots are ridiculous in this game, being able to shoot you across the map and even sometimes shooting at you before you've even made your presence known. It's honestly really janky, and I hate the fact that if anything, they're just giving your spot away to potential real players in the area. The AI for me is honestly the number one huge issue they need to address soon, so hopefully they are able to do so. Number 2, sleeping bags. Now, what I mean by the sleeping bags in this game is that in Rust, there is a reason why you're not able to set sleeping bags in POIs. I remember the first time I started playing Rust, I thought that it was a dumb thing that you couldn't place a sleeping bag down, but after I played Deadside where you actually are able to do so, now I 100% understand why. A story that I would love to tell everyone here would be I was actually able to go against a team of 3 on Deadside, and in one of the military camps I was able to eliminate 2 of them, and the third person unfortunately was able to get me. But since I was able to put down a sleeping bag on top of one of the towers there at the military camp, I was able to spawn back in immediately, get a weapon from one of the bots that I eliminated, and with that said weapon was able to get my revenge while the third guy was looting my body. This was all within like a minute time frame, and though I did come out successful in this situation, I still felt really bad for the dude, thinking that he was almost able to get away with a bunch of weapons and materials that I had. Once I ran home and put all of the loot away, I got another idea that I was like, why don't I do this? Instead of just me running back to the military camp, I just went ahead and just committed on alive and was able to gather the rest of the loot and run back home immediately. Even though I won, it didn't really feel as satisfying as when I win a 1v3 in Rust. Just need to change it where you can't place sleeping bags in POIs and just have to be a certain distance away from the POI to place them like how it is in Rust. I think now that I've seen a system that doesn't do that now, or that you can actually place it in POIs, now I actually 100% understand and agree with Rust's decision in not allowing players to place, sleeping bags in POIs. The third thing that I want to talk about is the health and food system needs some adjustments. Now, when it comes to the food portion, I believe there aren't many animals that you're able to hunt that I've discovered while playing the game that does give you food. The only ones that I can think of is, of course, you either have to go ahead and fish, shoot ducks down that you can shoot in the air, and deer. There are also wolves, but they don't really seem to give you any meat. They're mainly just for you to get their heads and then turn it into like a little kind of comfort thing that you can add to your base. Even then the spawn rate for the animals, now that I really think about it even more so, they seem to be pretty low. So even looking for deer that do give you food is very scarce. And I've actually been able to talk to even people while playing the game, because there is a global chat in these servers, and a lot of people are in agreement that yes, the food sources in this game are very lackluster right now. The water source here, or trying to find a water sources, is not really that big of a deal as when it comes to actual food. It would also be cool to see an update where you are also able to build a farm like in Rust and just start growing your own type of crops in your own base. The fourth thing here that I want to add is the craftable items. Now with this, what I mean by craftable items is that they should do it how you can with Rust, and that is you're able to go ahead and build makeshift laser sights or even just basic armor supplies, and then later in the game when you've gathered multiple supplies and have upgraded workbenches and stuff like you do in Rust, you're able to make bigger backpacks, better armor, weapons, better weapon attachments and stuff like that. But at that point, they would have to update the amount of weapons that do spawn in the area, which I personally do believe that is the beauty of Deadside, that you are able to find a weapon ridiculously fast, and you're able to go ahead and enter PvP situations or do missions around the map. Adding more craftable items that you can build would be a nice addition. Currently, the basic crafting is being able to make sleeping bags, better rags to regen your health, and also being able to build a makeshift backpack. Those are really the essentials that you can make right now early game, or just throughout the entire game in general. And now the fifth thing here that I also want to go ahead and add, which is pretty much the furthest down that I can think of, but it's not really that much of a problem, it's more of a little nitpick that I have, being able to change the setting where, like, in the game you're able to actually go ahead and lean left and right, and it's unfortunately right now that is only via holding. So you have to go ahead and hold either Q and E, the E keys, just for you to actually stay leaning. I kind of would like that for it to be toggleable, and it just be, I can just change it into a toggle function instead. There are honestly many things they need to add in this game to make it into a proper game like Rust. One of them, adding ladders or ways to climb up a base you are raiding, I would say would be kind of a nice thing to see, though you are able to go ahead and vault over actually like other people's bases if they're just one wall high. But just, you know, if they were to build it 2 walls high or something, it would be nice to again be able to build ladders for us to go ahead and climb into. One thing that I also forgot to mention is that leaving the server with your good items basically makes your character disappear like a ghost, and because of that, people have been able to exploit that, having all of their good loot on their character, and then once they're leaving the server, they just go ahead and just leave the server, and when they return, they still have all of their items if they were raided. Because unlike in Rust, when you leave the server, your character in Rust actually enters this kind of sleep state mode and they're still in the game, while in here in Deadside, again, they just poof, gone. So it would be nice for them to change that, where your character does still stay in the server, so somebody is to loot your base, they still are able to take your loot from your person. Though I personally do like Deadside and its approach to making it easy to get into PvP situations and making yourself into a tank, I feel like there isn't really much of a progression system on your person compared to the progression on your base, though that on its own is also pretty basic. The building system is somewhat basic. It's the same as Rust, using a hammer, or in Rust a basic building plan to place a foundation down first, then placing walls all around, and then placing your tool cupboard for your upkeep. Really isn't anything fancy here, and being able to upgrade your building to metal is also pretty easy on Deadside. Though the only types of locks that they do have in this game are code locks. They don't have just simple locks, which is interesting, as I myself am a solo player when I play. I would prefer for it to not be code based, so that way somebody has a chance to enter into my base. But I mean, code locks are still pretty fine, I suppose. They're not the end of the world to not have normal locks, but again, as someone as a solo, I don't really want to have that effect or that on my brain where I have to worry that somebody's gonna guess my code right. But yeah, nonetheless, it's still not that big of a deal. And even though I mentioned it's pretty basic, currently it's pretty good still. I mean, showing this to someone who doesn't play games like this in Rust, they're able to actually get a pretty clear understanding in base building, I would say. Though, unlike in Rust, though, there are other types of things that you can actually build in Rust, because they do have triangle foundations and kind of like little ladder hatches and stuff like that you can actually go ahead and add. But here, everything is basically just cube shaped. It's all squares. There's no triangles or nothing like that, so pretty much when you're making a base in Deadside, it's just all square based. I do want to say that also getting the materials and making these bases is very interesting, to say the least. I just find it odd that I can knife a bush or whack a tree with an axe for so long to get branches and logs, and the tree just never falls or things disappear, really. That means if you have a tree right next to your house like I do, you can basically get an infinite amount of materials without having to leave the area of your home, and potentially making a lot of noise, making other players catch you vulnerable or further away from your home. Though I do believe this is what may help keep server stability better, it's still just something that I do hope in the future they do change to force players to go further out and potentially run into a threat like in Rust, because I honestly do believe that when it comes to you getting those resources for your bases, aka the branches or the stones and Rust and the wood and all that stuff, that really is the most stress inducing feeling that you can go through. You just hitting a tree and then praying to God that no one shows up behind you to shoot you or take all of your stuff. Deadside does have many similarities to Rust, but the main thing that I do enjoy about Deadside is the fact that you can find resources to keep you alive and enjoy the fray instantly. You don't have to put in a ridiculous amount of time to get yourself to the point of being the most OP in the server. Though to many people that is where the fun does come from games like Rust, and that is the grind. With Deadside, there really isn't much of a grind for you to do, and the grind that is on Deadside doesn't feel as satisfying as when you're able to craft an AK in Rust. I do hope in the future they will add more craftables, as I mentioned earlier, and add and fix more of the issues they are currently facing, but I can't deny the fact that I've been having a lot of fun with Deadside, and I can see this game having a bright future if the devs listen to the feedback from the community. But for now, with the 1.0 release of Deadside, I can say that they do have a solid foundation. They just now have to capitalize on it and make sure their walls are fortified before other games in the genre raid them. Though Rust is a thing that does exist, it's going to be pretty hard for them to compete against that genre there, or that player base, that loyal player base that have been with Rust for so many years. So here's to hoping that Deadside does do good, or if anything, I do hope that Deadside stays long enough relevant so that way them and Rust can go back and forth with each other and get similar ideas and such. And yeah, I hope that they're able to work, I guess, kind of way coexist with each other, because good competition is always amazing for at least us players, because that makes the developers to have to go ahead and look at that other game and be like, okay, we need to go ahead and change and update in our own game and make it better. So competition, friendly, good competition is always good for businesses. That's for sure.